Raising the Bets is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to Raising the Bets, a family podcast of pirates and penguins. We're a Catholic couple raising 5 kids outside of Boston. Join us as we share the joys and challenges of marriage, homeschool, and our adventures near and far as we make sense of the world and experience the best parts of our culture. I'm Tom Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
I wonder how long we're going to use pirates and penguins. Like, will we still do that when they're teenagers?
Probably.
When they're all teenagers.
Sure.
We've already got teenagers. Or a teenager.
We will shortly have 2 teenagers.
Oh, yes, that's coming. All right, that's only chronologically. Emotionally, I think we're already there.
The tween years for girls tends to be very, yeah.
Yeah. They tend to be very, yeah. Anyway, let's move on. How's your recovery going, Melanie?
I'm pretty good. I saw my doctor this week. Managed to drive myself to the hospital, which I wasn't sure that was going to happen.
On the day before Thanksgiving.
The day before Thanksgiving. And he was very pleased. He said I was looking better than he expected. And
so I wouldn't know how to take that. Oh, you look better than I expected. Thank you. Did you expect you to be falling apart at this point?
Well, I expected to be falling apart. So,
well, you did certainly say up front to him that you are slow at recovery from this.
I am. Well, he actually thought I was bouncing back very quickly, and generally feeling pretty good. Better than I expected to be at this point, but I still managed to overdo it yesterday. So
yeah. Well, you're at that stage of when you're just getting better from something. And you're like, I'm better. I can do things. And then you're like, not that better.
Right. Like, I can do all the things that I've been putting off doing. Oh, wait, no, I really can't.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So to give you a summary of what I did yesterday, because this is crazy, I dropped the girls off for their scout hike. Then I came home. I made cranberry sauce, more cranberry sauce, because we ate all of the cranberry sauce I made for Thanksgiving. Another pecan pie, because, again, we ate the pecan pie I made for Thanksgiving. Plus cookies for Lucy. And then I went and picked up the girls again. And then, oh yeah, I also made dinner.
Yeah.
That was way too much being on my feet and standing and doing stuff. And I pretty much collapsed before dinner.
Yeah. So I would have done some of that, but I was recording new episodes of Mysterious World with Jimmy. So I was unavailable for some of that.
I was fine with the driving. Honestly, I think it was the cooking because I was just on my feet for a long time.
Yeah.
It was more cooking than I should have done on one day. Yeah,
and you're the one who does the baking for pies and cookies and things. I'm not quite there with that, but
I mean, I love baking.
Yeah,
and I've missed baking. I mean, 2 weeks of no baking is hard for me.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, as I silenced my iPad, I forgot to say I silenced my phone, but on my iPad before we started, it was dinging. In any case. Speaking of Thanksgiving, which
yes,
we sort of were, we had Thanksgiving.
We did. We were very thankful.
We were very thankful. And we had a good dinner.
We did.
We have learned. It takes us a long time to learn things, but we finally learned that we don't have to fill the table with different kinds of dishes. That we tend to I think we kind of got this idea from big family Thanksgivings, where you had to have 10 different kinds of dishes, vegetables and starches and all that sort of stuff on the table. We didn't do 10 different kinds, but we used to put more on the table than we do now.
Yeah.
And you're only going to eat a little of each thing anyway, and it's all then going to go in the fridge. So we've cut down on the numbers of different dishes we do.
Although I think that we're actually getting to the point where we're going to have to...
We do have to start ramping up.
Start ramping up again because, as we said... We're getting teenagers
right. Well,
with their appetites.
I think we need to make more of the things, the fewer things we're putting on the table and not as many different things.
I don't know. I like variety.
Okay. So forget what I just said. In any case, this time we had, of course, the turkey, we had the gravy, we had mashed potatoes. We were going to make roast potatoes, but we didn't do that.
Yeah, because Lucy can't eat the mashed potatoes. And honestly, I kind of fell down this year. Actually, I really fell down this year on providing more options for her. Like, I usually try to make sure that she has a special dessert for Thanksgiving. And it came time for dessert. And I looked at, like, I'd made a pecan pie with the help of the kids.
And I'd bought a frozen
and you bought
pumpkin
pie, and there was nothing for her. Like in the past, I think what I had figured was Bella was going to make an apple pie, but you forgot to buy apples when you went to the store. So we
right. Well, it wasn't that I forgot to buy apples. It was that we did an Instacart or a sort of.
Right. We forgot to put extra apples in the Instacart for pie.
Right.
So I was going to make her like a little tiny pilot, like a little tart with some
a no crust pie, basically,
or like a almond flour crust pie.
Okay.
And because we didn't have apples, I didn't do that, and like it
went under the radar.
My brain just kind of blipped right over it.
Well, I mean, as we said like 5 minutes ago, you're still recovering, so
well, there is that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the cookies on Saturday were in part an attempt to make up to her for not having an actual Thanksgiving dessert on the table for her.
Right. So in addition to the turkey, gravy, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
We could have done twice as many. Even though there were leftover Brussels sprouts a little bit, we could have done more Brussels sprouts.
Even though there were leftovers, we could have done more.
Because there were leftovers, because I would have had more, but I didn't want to eat the last Brussels sprouts.
Mm-hmm.
So I only had a few.
I think everybody took smaller helpings than they might have liked.
Yes. Because
there weren't very many.
Right. Yep. I think in Brussels sprouts being a nice cruciferous green vegetable is a good thing to encourage everyone to eat.
They just, when you buy twice as much, it takes twice as long to cook because they don't all fit in the pan at once.
Right. That one package takes the whole pan.
Right. That's the problem, which I was trying to avoid, was having to do two pans.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What else did we have besides that?
I made a loaf of challah.
That's right.
With the help of Sophia, who did most of the legwork, and like I was able to sit through much of it. Yeah. Making bread is actually pretty easy. Like she did a lot of the measuring and mixing, and I did the braiding. And we have a KitchenAid mixer to do the kneading, so I was not kneading bread.
Right.
And then I braided it and threw it in the oven. It was not a huge amount of work, and I did that on Tuesday, and then just wrapped it up in plastic.
So I want to talk a little about the turkey.
Yeah, you did the turkey, but you always do the turkey. I do not. I do not do turkey.
You don't do turkey.
No.
Yes, I always do the big meats. So this time, last year the bird was frozen when we got to Thanksgiving Day, and I had to scramble to find a method to cook a basically frozen turkey, which I did, and it came out pretty good last year. Now this year we had a little bit, as I mentioned, we did it wasn't technically Instacart, but it was a pick up from the grocery store, curbside pickup. Right. Now, when you're ordering online, you could order. We wanted a 14-pound turkey. I think is what we had decided would be good for us. You could either get a 10 to 16 or a 16 to 20. But there was no way to specify a specific weight. Right. And I was afraid that if I said 10 to 16, I'd end up with a 10-pounder. Or you could end up with a 10-pounder, which would be way not enough. So I said 16 to 20. I figure if I get a 16. That's close to 14. If I get a 20, well, we'll have to figure something out. I mean, a 20 would still fit in the pan and in the oven, but it would be a lot of turkey. But it turns out it was an 18. So I got an 18-pound turkey, and it was defrosted. It fit in the fridge, which was good. But I don't know. I had this idea for a business of renting refrigerators to people around the holidays. Like a second fridge you could just rent and stick in a corner for a week. See, I think most people who have room for a second fridge already have a second fridge because they have room for it. People have second fridges, but also people have cellars and pantries and garages. Like yeah, I would love to have more space, and because like all these recipes, in order to brine the turkey, you put it in this big bucket full of water and put the giant bucket in your fridge. I'm like, I've got other things in my fridge. That would be the entire fridge. I was talking to some of my girlfriends this week who were talking about brining turkeys. And I said,
what do you brine it in? And one of my friends misunderstood me, and she started describing her brine, like all the ingredients of her brine. And I'm like, no, not the ingredients of the brine. What kind of container do you brine it in, and where do you put this container? Now, this one friend said she put it in her second fridge.
Right.
Another friend said she just moved the wire racks in her fridge and set them on top of. She put her turkey in her stock pot, brined it in the stock pot, and then put the stock pot in the fridge, and then the wire rack on top of the stock pot, and then just piled the food on top of the wire rack on top of the stock pot. That would not work in our fridge because we don't have like the old fashioned wire
racks.
kinds.
Yeah, that's gonna be a really old fridge.
She's in Canada, so I don't know. Like maybe Canadian fridges tend more towards the wire rack,
like milk in bags and wire racks in fridges.
I do not know.
Canada is not like America, let me just tell you. Anyway. So, and then I think one time we did the brining in a cooler, which is fine, except you still
have to clean out the nasty.
Well, you have nasty
turkey
blood-filled cooler. Right.
That's gross. I will never do that.
We did that once, and then the cooler didn't get clean for a while, and because it's winter, and
it's cold.
I don't have an outdoor hose. I have to rehook up the hose and turn the water back on, and yeah, so that was a hassle. And plus, you got to make sure it stays cold. Like it's got to be below 40 degrees in that cooler, or you're going to start growing things. And that's just.
And you don't want to grow things on your turkey.
That's too much risk for me. Yeah. So I've decided against the brine.
Even though we're theoretically in favor of brine.
I'm in favor of brining in general. I would brine if I could. If I had a spare fridge, I would. So what I did, and I worried, Melanie, you could tell you, I worried about this. I was worried about a dry turkey.
You were a little bit I will not put an adjective there. Just yes, you were. I was
obsessing.
Concerned.
I was obsessing about having. Dry
I didn't
turkey.
want to use the word obsessing.
There was no worse thing to say to someone who likes to cook than his turkey was dry on Thanksgiving. Like, I mean, that is like the nadir of cooking excellence. Like that's the rookie cook mistake. Like the first year they were married, she made the turkey for Thanksgiving and it was a bit dry. And they say it like they whisper it, like when you say someone has cancer. She had cancer. Like the turkey was dry. I mean, it's the worst thing possible is to have dry turkey.
I don't think any of us would have cared that much.
I know. But
I mean, you're making it for me and 5 kids.
I know. And I would be upset. I would care. I care. Okay?
Okay.
So I came up with the idea is I decided to do the under the skin butter. Okay?
Always a good move.
So I made an herb butter and just was putting, the kids thought it was the weirdest thing watching me shove my hand under the skin and like some alien under the skin of the bird. They were kind of freaking out, like, that's weird, Dad. I know. And so I put a half a stick of butter under there, and then I did the roast, the high roast method. So you put it upside down. You put breast side down in a V-rack in the pan for an hour at a high temp, and then flip it and lower the temp a bit for the rest of the cook.
Okay.
Now, all of the recipes that I looked at, Cooks Illustrated, Joy Cooking, they're all like, if you have a smaller bird, you may want to do the bird flip technique. But if you have a larger bird, over 16 pounds, you'll not want to do this because it's too large. Too large. Hold my beer. I'm flipping the bird.
He flipped the bird.
I flipped the bird. And so, in fact, I might get a t-shirt that says that. That might even be the episode title for this episode. You flipped the bird. You folks you can look at your iPod player now, your podcast player now, and see if I actually chose that as the title. In any case, it worked. It was fine. It was good.
It was good.
The only thing I wish is the skin was a little crispier.
Crispier skin would have been nice.
Yeah,
we're big fans of crispy skin, as we've talked about before.
But in general, I was happy with it. And then I made the gravy out of the drippings.
The gravy was really good.
Oh yes.
I'm not a big gravy fan. I can take or leave gravy generally. This was really good gravy. It was like
good gravy.
Yeah.
To quote Peter Parker, or no, J. Jonah Jameson.
Who?
Peter Parker's boss, Spider-Man's boss.
Oh,
good gravy.
Right.
So I may be making that up, but in any case, I halved the gravy recipe because last year we had way too much gravy.
You made like 2 quarts of gravy?
I just followed the recipe. It made a lot of gravy. So this year I made less.
It was like gravy for an army. Again,
I wouldn't mind having a little more gravy, but I think it was good. I think it was enough. It was really good gravy though. It turned out really well. So I was very happy with that. Yeah. And then we had dinner. We had dinner a little later than we might have usually because we weren't going anywhere. Because
we go to your brother's for dessert.
Right.
Dessert, kind of scare quotes dessert. Like we hang out, we do social things.
It's at the dinner hour.
So it's like pie for dinner?
Pie for dinner. Because we've all just eaten a big meal and then we go over there. Of course, but some of our kids want food. Like they want dessert, of course, but they also want something substantial because they're hungry because it's 6:00.
Yeah, we learned when we had toddlers to bring food.
Right. Now we just I let them raid my brother's turkey.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, but this year there wasn't any of that, which even if we wanted to, we couldn't because my brother was in Alabama.
Because his son is stationed there.
Yes, one of his sons is a newly commissioned Army officer. We mentioned that over the summer, and he's in training to become a helicopter pilot. So several of them went down. Not all of them. The 2 oldest stayed local. One of them must have spent, I haven't talked to them, but one of them must have spent Thanksgiving with his girlfriend's family. And the other one probably just stayed home. This one went to market and this one just stayed home.
Probably.
Which is, yeah, he's an introvert, which power to him. I'm happy.
He was probably enjoying the quiet.
I'm sure he had a blast.
Nobody else is home. I got the place to myself.
Yes. So, yeah. So that was it was a good day. It was now I have to mention well let's finish off the Thanksgiving dinner, that sort of thing, and we can talk about what we've done this weekend as part of that too. But it was a good day. It was good, right?
Yeah, it was quiet. It was
yeah.
We didn't really do like family phone calls. I had just had a Zoom meeting on Tuesday, because my brother's birthday was Tuesday. Yeah. So my family did a Zoom meeting that his wife arranged, and we all wished him happy birthday. And so we'd kind of done a
significant birthday.
It was a milestone birthday.
Yes.
For my little brother.
Yes.
We won't embarrass him by mentioning which milestone.
Yes, because he would be so embarrassed by everyone knowing. In any case.
Not that he listens to my podcast.
I mean, he's younger than you, so therefore. Anyway, yeah, it was good. I was cooking, but you had a good chance to.
And then I did the one-on-one phone call today.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to we didn't want to overwhelm him on his birthday with having to spend the entire day on the phone with everybody in the family from all over. So
because your family's not like my family. My family birthday calls are like, hey, happy birthday, buddy. Oh yeah, thanks. What are you up to? Oh, not much, just hanging out with the family. Okay, cool. Well, I'll see you later. Okay. 5 minutes, we're done. Your family is like a 2-hour call.
Well, right. I was like 2 hours, an hour and a half today.
No. When I first went in to see you had been on the phone for a while already?
I'd only been on the phone for like 20 minutes.
Okay.
At that point.
Then and then an hour later is when
yeah, it's like
back.
An hour and a half.
Okay. I'll allow that.
It was good. I mean, I haven't talked to him in months and months and months. Like, we're not big phone call people. So that's the other thing is
right. I see my family more than you do.
My family's in Texas.
Yeah.
So, and we're not big phone call people. So when we do call, we usually just taking a couple hours to catch up.
Yeah. Cool. So one of the things we've done this weekend is we decided that it's been a while since we watched the original Star Wars trilogy as a family.
Let's first of all, the kids were sad because they weren't going to be seeing their cousins on Thanksgiving,
right.
And they've never had Thanksgiving without their cousins.
Right. Well, in fact, this is the second major holiday after Easter where, again, they aren't able to be with family, which they're used to being able to do.
So we wanted to do something special to kind of make it up to them. Like, you don't get the family Thanksgiving, but we're going to do something on Thanksgiving afternoon that'll be fun and will take your mind off of it.
Right. So we decided that we were going to, it had been a long time since we watched the original Star Wars trilogy. And in fact, Lucy doesn't even remember it. She was in diapers, I think.
Bella remembers Lucy being in diapers the last time we watched the original trilogy.
Right. So for all intents and purposes, Lucy did not know A New Hope, the original Star Wars. And so we were going to watch the 3 of the movies over the weekend. And then they all decided, no, we need to watch Rogue One first. And I'm very proud of them because they decided we have to start at the beginning.
I was just mentioning this to my brother, actually. I love this generation. They have a very different idea of canonical watching order. And so for them, Rogue One has to be watched immediately before A New Hope because like Rogue One picks up like within
it ends and then A New Hope begins.
Right. Like seconds later in the timeline of the story.
Right.
It's like boom.
It could be seconds later. It's literally the Princess Leia ship takes off, and the next movie, Princess Leia ship jumps into Tatooine's orbit. I mean, it's literally like that from there to there. So they decided that they wanted to watch Rogue One first.
So Thanksgiving we watched Rogue One,
and then we watched A New Hope on Friday, and we watched Empire on Saturday, and today they watched Return of the Jedi.
Right.
It's quite a marathon.
I watched the first 2.
Yeah.
After that, I was a little bit Star Warsed out. I'm sorry. I was.
Well, you also watched Mandalorian.
I did watch Mandalorian on Friday.
With Grogu.
Are we supposed to say that?
No one knows what it means unless they know what it means.
Okay, that's true.
Doesn't spoil anything if they don't know. So yes,
this was one of my favorite Mandalorian episodes so far.
Yes,
it was really top notch, and I love this show. It is such a good show,
right?
And this was a great episode. So
it might be the best TV that's on now. Like even if you're not a big Star Wars fan, there are people who agree that this is great. And if you are a fan of Clone Wars or Rebels, the animated series, like all the people who watched the animated series and were made fun of by their friends for watching a kids animated show, just because it's Star Wars, are now gloating because we understand everything that's going on.
In the Mandalorian?
In the Mandalorian, right.
I still have to catch up on Star Wars, on Rebels and Clone Wars.
It's so funny when the kids are talking about Rebels and Clone Wars.
Shh, we can't spoil Mama.
Don't spoil Mama. We have to whisper what's going on.
Which I really don't care that much about spoilers for the series, but I like them to have
It's important to them.
The adventure of not spoiling me is actually kind of more important than not being spoiled.
It's also good training for them to be good people, because good people don't spoil other people.
Right. It's an etiquette lesson.
Yes. Right. So, yeah. And I'll be honest. I only made it partway through Empire Strikes Back. They watch it with the lights turned off, and it's like the middle of the afternoon. It's dark. I'm tired. And I'm struggling to stay. Like, if I watch it in the evening, I'm fine. I don't fall asleep watching TV shows at night. In the afternoon, I have a hard time. I don't know what it is. It's weird.
I fell asleep during A New Hope. I totally missed like a good 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I watched the very beginning of. I watched the Hoth part. No, I watched beyond that. When Luke got to Dagobah, I think that's where I checked out. I went to the other room, and I think I also wanted to start thinking about dinner and all the other stuff too. Getting that done. And then today I watched like them rescue Han, and then I went and did other stuff the other room. So yeah, and then they also got to watch their episodes of Clone Wars and Rebels today. It was so funny because they watched
so much ridiculous amounts of Star Wars this weekend.
Oh yeah, and I think this could be a fun annual tradition of Thanksgiving weekend is Star Wars weekend of some sort. So it doesn't have to be the same movies every time. Like maybe next time it'll be the prequels or the sequels or a Solo or whatever, like a movie here or there, or a binge The Mandalorian or whatever it is. But it'd be fun for that to become a tradition, over the Thanksgiving weekend. Be kind of fun. So let's move on to talk a little bit about other things we've been eating besides Thanksgiving.
Did we eat anything besides Thanksgiving? I feel like that has loomed so large. I don't even remember any other meals.
It is the grand eating holiday of the year. So that's actually part of the trick of Thanksgiving is because so much goes into making that one meal on Thursday. All of the other meals surrounding it in the week kind of overwhelmed, and like, how do I make dinners on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday and Saturday when I'm dealing with this one big meal on Thursday?
Yeah.
So
I hate cooking the other meals.
So Wednesday, I think we've settled on Wednesday is pizza night. And in fact, I think a lot of people do that because I heard from some of the pizza places were saying that if you want pizzas, if you're going to order pizza on Wednesday night, do it early because
which we did. We ordered early
because they're slammed. So it's kind of interesting. So we're not alone in that. But on Tuesday, I had some shrimp in the freezer that I bought. It was on sale. And I wanted to make something with it. I'd been thinking about a jambalaya or something like that, but you don't want rice. We've been having too much rice lately, so I kind of avoided that. So instead, I made a Thai shrimp curry.
It was good.
So yeah, so it used the Thai red curry paste. And one of the tricks with that is you take a can of coconut milk and make sure it's not mixed up. You want it separated, but the coconut cream and the coconut liquid. The coconut water, and you put in the big Dutch oven, and you take the coconut cream and the Thai red curry paste, and you basically fry it together. And what happens is after a while, it separates, like the coconut cream separate. You see it separate into like a solids and a liquid, and that's the oils coming out. And it starts frying the solids and the curry paste, and then it kind of becomes it goes through like it looks like it breaks and then it comes back together again. It's a very interesting process, and then that's when you start throwing the vegetables in, and I think I put tomatoes in,
bell pepper,
carrot, So I put canned tomatoes, bell pepper, carrots, onions, mushrooms. I'm trying to think of what else I put in. A bunch of stuff. And then I put garlic and ginger. I did fry up the garlic and ginger using the immersion blender, make a paste, a garlic ginger paste that worked out well. A few other things, and I kind of cobbled it together on the wing, and it came out pretty good. I liked it. We used to make a Thai curry chicken dish a lot.
We made it so often that I got a little bit burned out on it.
Yeah, we haven't made it in ages. And you got burned out right about the time that I said we make this a lot. I should buy a whole bunch of this paste in bulk from Amazon, cheap, because we make this so much. And that's when you decided that you didn't want to have it anymore. And so I've had this box of bottles of curry paste.
There might have been also. I'm trying to remember. It's also possible that I developed a little bit of aversion to it because we were eating it when I was pregnant, and like I was.
Oh, that might be.
I don't remember clearly. I mean, it's all a blur. It's a haze. But it's possible that like some of my food aversions I can trace back to pregnancy. And
yes, I've got food aversions that are traced back to just
being sick.
Well, not being sick from the food, but being sick around the time of eating the food.
Yes.
I remember once I got this really bad summer cold / flu. I'm not sure what it was in college. The symptoms hit the day after I'd gone out for ribs with my friends, and I was put off of ribs, like barbecue ribs, for a long time after that. It was very
Well,
weird.
when we met, I wouldn't eat garlic because Can
you imagine like not being able to cook with garlic
because I'd had a really bad migraine after eating a roasted garlic pizza. And so like the entire time I was like stewing in this migraine, all I could smell was roasted garlic, and the smell of like the idea of roasted garlic and the smell of it just got associated with pain. Horrible, awful pain.
So I cured you of that by starting to sneak garlic back into dishes as I cooked.
Yes, you did. I now can cook and eat garlic, and I'm glad. It's also had been about 10 years since I'd had the bad.
After
garlic.
a while, that sort of aversion does tend to fade, I think.
I think it does. They say all the cells in your body like replace themselves every so many years.
So does the aversion cells.
Yeah, we'll just go with that.
Science.
Wave your hand. Science.
Just wave your hand. You just picture us waving my hand and saying science. Anyway.
So yeah, the Thai curry was good.
And then Friday, another tradition that I think we've established is as soon as we're done with the turkey, as soon as we're done with dinner, I take all the rest of the meat off of the turkey and put the bones right into a stock pot, fill the pot with water, and start it simmering. And I let it simmer overnight.
That way you don't have to figure out what to do with the bones.
Right.
They just go into the pot.
Yeah, just right into the pot and then simmer it overnight, 24 hours. It wasn't quite 24 hours. I think it was like 20 hours or something like that. And then strain it off, and it has this beautiful golden stalk that when it's done.
I would have added some vegetables.
You would have added vegetables.
You didn't add any vegetables.
I didn't add vegetables because I knew I was going to add vegetables with what I was going to do with it.
Yeah, but it flavors the broth.
I know. So I just at that point I was doing dishes. I needed you weren't able to be because of recovering. You weren't able to be helping with a lot of the other stuff. So I was just getting things.
Well, no, I usually don't do the vegetables overnight. I simmer the bones overnight.
Yeah.
And then like about an hour before I'm going to take it off the heat, I throw the vegetables in and just do like an hour simmer, and then I take it off.
Yeah.
And strain it.
Well, in any case, I don't think it hurt it because what I ended up doing was I actually made two different soups because Bella doesn't like soups with tomatoes. So I made her a turkey rice soup.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the rest of us, I made a turkey tortilla soup. Now, here's the thing. Turkey loves smoke, like anything that's smoky and spice. So, in fact, there are several Tex-Mex and Mexican dishes that incorporate turkey that are really good. So we make a turkey tortilla soup, and I might have mentioned this last year. This was about the time last year where, when I was making the turkey tortilla soup, I cut my finger really badly and ended up in urgent care.
We spent the night after Thanksgiving at urgent care as a family.
Because we couldn't leave them all home while Melanie drove me to urgent care. Yes.
Yeah, that was fun.
And ended up getting my finger cauterized and all that sort of stuff. Yes. So this year, I was very careful cutting up the vegetables.
Because that's really all we needed was a trip to urgent care.
Yeah, keep that thumb tucked in when you're cutting your vegetables. So, so I made turkey tortilla soup. So I didn't put rice in it this year. I forgot that. I could have put rice in.
Rice?
We've done it with rice before.
In the tortilla soup?
Yes.
That's weird.
Yeah, I saw. Actually,
I would not do that.
It came up in my photo memories of a few years ago. I saw, but I did forget to put the cilantro in. I like to put cilantro in. But one of the things, so I use the canned fire roasted tomatoes, and I use chipotle and adobo. I don't use as much as maybe I would if it was just you and me, because I want the kids to still want to eat it, because otherwise it would be too spicy for them. But of course, then the regular vegetables: carrot, celery, onion. Bell pepper.
If Lucy didn't have a corn allergy, you would just put frozen corn right in at the end, but we serve it on the side.
Yeah.
Same thing with the tortillas. Well, actually, you usually put the tortilla chips
in the bowl,
into the bowl when you pour the soup, so it still has a little bit of a crunch.
Right, and then also grated, 5 Tex-Mex cheese, which is at the table. And it comes out really good, and it's as with a lot of soups, it's even better the next day. It's just that smokiness for the chipotle and adobo and of the fire roasted tomatoes really go well with turkey. So I'd like to figure other ways to. I mean, smoked turkey I've heard is really good, and that's totally up that alley. The smoke,
right?
Anyway, so that's our cooking for the past week. It's a big cooking holiday. So for Christmas, looking ahead, I mean, we're going to do our usual Christmas Eve, the lobster, 7 fishes, but there won't be 7 probably this year. We should figure it ahead of time what exactly we want to have. Because a lot of times we're like, okay, what are we doing for fishes? And they're like, okay, we're definitely having lobster. What else are we going to get? We usually get some shrimp. We get a piece of fish for you, lobsters for the rest of us. And then we kind of do like stuffed clams or whatever, but I don't know. I think we should simplify. Go with the lobster and whatever anyone else like, and the fish, and I don't know about the other stuff.
The kids really like the shrimp.
We could do the shrimp.
To me, shrimp feels very Christmassy because my parents owned a Catholic store, so our Christmas Eve was like on Christmas Eve. My dad stayed open, because the day before Christmas, big
Busy.
Shopping day.
Yeah.
But he always try to treat his employees well, and so on Christmas Eve he always did like a nice spread of like cheese and crackers and cold cuts and
shrimp.
Well, no, and so that would come home and be the leftovers of that, plus my mom would make shrimp cocktails.
Oh, okay.
And so our traditional Christmas Eve was cheese board. Sure, I guess we would now call it a charcuterie board.
Charcuterie. Because we're
but
fancy
like
now.
cheese and fancy meats and shrimp cocktail. So to me, like the shrimp
Okay.
just kind of naturally goes with Christmas.
Okay, that's cool. So we'll do that for Christmas. And Christmas Day, I don't know what we'll do. Like we'll do like.
I hate Christmas Day. I love Christmas. I hate Christmas meals because like Thanksgiving, you can always do a turkey. By Christmas, I don't really necessarily. It's too soon to want another turkey.
Right.
I'm not.
We did a rib roast last year, didn't we?
Yeah, I don't really love roast beef that much.
Right.
I like the trimming. I like the trimmings. I like the Yorkshire pudding and all of the sides. But the roast beef itself just is kind of like, it's a chunk of beef.
But if you cook it so that it's steak-like, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the standing rib roast that I got last year was really nice. It was also not cheap.
Right. Well, I'm wondering, maybe we should get that Costco membership like we've been talking about, fairly soon, and go check out and see if they've got some sale meats or anything. One of my Facebook friends was saying that the best time to buy your meat, your beef for Christmas is Thanksgiving week because no one's buying beef, and so it's on sale. And he got like a prime rib, like a $75 prime rib for $18.
Wow.
Yes. Of course, it's like down in Louisiana or something like that. So I don't know if it's something specific to that or whatever, but
possibly.
But
my parents said that they actually had paella for their Thanksgiving dinner this year.
Wow. Oh, the empty nesters.
I know a lot of people did non-traditional Thanksgivings. Mm-hmm. My friend Stephanie did turkey meatballs over pasta.
Okay.
Because they
have little kids.
They have little kids, and they're currently living in a trailer while they build on the land that they just bought.
Right.
And so they don't have a big kitchen.
Right. Yeah, a trailer kitchen is a small kitchen, I know from experience. All right, so let's move on to talk about things we've been watching and reading. And now let's talk about the reading first, because the watching thing is the bigger deal. But okay. I know we're going to have a lot to say about that. But so reading, I just finished, or I'm about to finish, I'm like at 90% done, the new Tom Clancy novel. Tom Clancy has passed on, rest in peace, but his characters are being continued by a pair of writers. And this one is they switch off back and forth between them. And this one is by Mark Cameron, called Shadow of the Dragon, and it's a real throwback to the Hunt for Red October era sort of Clancy. Jack Ryan is now president of the United States in the books, but there's a Chinese ballistic missile nuclear submarine that is at the heart of the story, as opposed to a Russian ballistic missile submarine.
Interesting.
I keep waiting for Ryan to make a remark to connect himself to the Red October and stuff. But of course, that would still be classified, so we probably can't talk about it to anybody. But
that's I suppose, an excuse.
It's a nice cop out. Headcanon allowed. So good. It's good. It involves the Chinese, involves the Uyghurs from the Xinjiang region. Uyghurs are ethnic Muslims.
Okay.
Who are
OUI.
UIGHUR. UIGHUR.
Yeah. I do not pronounce that properly because once I sort of visualized the word, I could see it, but it does. I do not do the UI as we.
I had to look. I heard it somewhere once.
That's like the time I went on the geology walk with the kids, and it took me a good 20 minutes to realize that when the guy kept talking about the nice rocks, that he meant GNEISS, nice, not like they were nice rocks. Oh my gosh, I felt so stupid.
Well, at first he should probably emphasize the silent G, nice. You could do that. Well, that's like the city of Xi'an. Xian.
Right.
Yeah. You once you understand how the transliterated letters work, it becomes easier. But the Xinjiang region, it's a Central Asian region, has to do a lot with how the Uyghurs are persecuted by the Chinese, and it's very interesting. And so it's a pretty good book. I enjoyed it. A little better even than some of the more recent Tom Clancy, Jack Ryan books. You wanted to talk about a couple of books that you've been reading with the kids. Right.
I'm kind of still in a rut with my own reading. I'm having trouble making headway on much of anything. But the things what I've enjoyed most reading in the past week have been a couple books that I got with the kids. And I do not remember. I think I stumbled upon this author on a homeschooling page. Anyway, she's a author who was born in Nigeria, but then grew up going back and forth between Nigeria and Britain. Her name is, she writes, I'm not sure this is a pen name. She writes under the single name Atinuke. And we read a couple picture books by her that were okay, but it's her chapter books that I've really liked. And she's got 2 series. One is about a little girl named Anna Hibiscus who lives in a big modern city.
In Africa.
All of the stories start off with Anna Hibiscus lived in Africa, amazing Africa. And she lives in a big compound in the city with her grandparents, her aunts, her uncles, her cousins, and her parents and her baby twin brothers. And she's little. I think she reads as like maybe 5 or 6. And her mom is from Canada, but the rest of her family are African and very traditional African. And there's this great emphasis on African culture, being African, but also it's modern. They've got cell phones, they've got computers, they've got cars, and it's
good because so much of kids literature about Africa that you see here really is like about the bush, the rural,
right. And so I really like this. I read an interview with her, or no, I watched an interview with her where she's asked about like the question, like one of the possible critiques of it is that it's not in any specific country or a specific city in Africa. And she said, well, yeah, there's a problem with that in that some Westerners kind of think of Africa as being like a country. But she also wanted it to be sort of representative of all of modern urban Africa and not only about Nigeria.
Right.
But I really liked the stories. There's a real emphasis on family. There's one story where Anna Hibiscus's mom, who's from Canada, she gets a little bit overwhelmed by the big African family and she wants to go on a vacation. So they go to the beach, just mom, dad, and the 3 kids. Twin babies, like very small nursing babies. And mom and dad quickly get overwhelmed. And so first they get, I think the aunties come, and then the cousins come, and then the uncles come, and then the grandparents come, and finally the entire family is at the beach, because it turns out that it's much harder to watch babies when you don't have the big extended family.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, I empathized with that so much because I was very often stuck with babies without the big extended family, and I would have loved all the grandmas and the aunties and the cousins to help
right
entertain and hold and cook and all of that stuff. I really like the emphasis on family. There's also a great story about Anna Hibiscus watching the people who are outside the gate of their compound who are like selling things on the street, like the street vendors. And she thinks, oh, that would be fun. I'm bored. I want to go be a street vendor. And so she picks the oranges off the orange tree, or the mangoes. I don't remember.
A fruit.
They pick fruits off the tree in her garden, and she goes out and she sells them. And since her fruits are freshly picked, they look a lot better than the ones that the street vendors are getting from the marketplace that have been like brought in from the country and have gotten dusty and squishy and stuff. And so she outsells them all. And
all these kids are then sad because they haven't sold the things, right, the fruit. And
her parents, when her uncles and dad, when they come home from work, see all the street vendor kids who are sad, and they kind of pointedly say, oh, so-and-so is very sad because she's got to go home to her 10 younger siblings and she doesn't have money to buy them dinner. And so-and-so is sad because she didn't get enough money to buy herself food. And all of these people are going to go without dinner because Anna Hibiscus was selling oranges. And so the next day, her grandfather takes her to the market, and she uses all the money that she earned, buying fruit and bringing them to the street vendors back and forth all day long to the market. And then they make the most money that they have ever made because they don't have to go to the market. And she learns the meaning of hard work.
Right.
Having to go back and forth, carrying big baskets of fruit.
And you told me when you read this that the uncles, they don't berate her, they don't scold her.
She's not punished.
Right.
She's not berated. She's just shown the consequences of these people are going to be hungry, and now you need to make it up to them, and you have to do the work that you took from them, that you didn't do. Yeah. The part of the job that you did, the fun part of the job, you didn't do the hard part. Now you're going to do the hard part, and you're going to pay them back.
Right.
And I loved the way that the very gentle discipline in it, but it was still a very pointed lesson. And it was also the lesson about, like, Anna Hibiscus is living a very affluent life, and the people right outside her gate are not living the same kind of lifestyle. So there's also that glimpse of the two sides of life in Africa.
Cool.
Then the other series that we started reading is The Number One Car Spotter. And this is like the opposite experience of Africa. This is rural Africa. And the number one car spotter lives in a very tiny little rural village. But again, his dad and most of the men in the village are living in the big city and working there and sending money home, while the women are growing the food and selling food by the roadside. And he's the number one car spotter because they live on the big road, and the main entertainment in the village is naming all the cars that go by. He has a name, and I can't remember it. It's like very long, but he's just known as number one in the village.
Okay.
And all the kids in the village have funny names. Like his best friend is nicknamed Coca-Cola because his mom sells food that she makes by the roadside, and his job is to run to the stream and get the cold Coca-Colas. So she just yells Coca-Cola, and he goes and gets the Cokes.
That's funny.
Anyway, I really loved both series because it's very much about modern contemporary Africa. And
it's good. I think it's good for kids to, there's a lot of books that emphasize North America, obviously, South America, like Latin America. There's plenty of books that kids have read about Europe and Asia. But there hasn't been a lot about modern Africa, and I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, it's been fun. We also read another book recently about a Maasai boy who ends up going to college in the United States. That was also really good because, again, he's living the like nomadic lifestyle, hunting lions and watching his family's cows. But then he also ends up getting a graduate degree at Harvard.
Right.
And so I really liked that. There still are nomadic peoples in Africa watching cows. There are also people in Africa living in villages, and there are people in Africa living in big cities. And so I think now we've sort of seen a lot of the cross section of what modern Africa is.
Cool. All right. So let's talk about the big thing that you and I both watched together this week that a lot of people are talking about, which is The Queen's Gambit, which is we used to call them miniseries back in the day. Now they call them limited series.
It was so good.
It's a one-off. And it's on Netflix, and it was so good. Let me just say, before this, we watched this, I had been thinking that maybe it's time to get rid of Netflix because there's not as much there. I'm seeing all this other stuff on Disney Plus and Apple and Amazon. This made me think maybe I need to stick around because there might be more of this sort of thing. This was excellent. So in case you haven't heard about it, The Queen's Gambit, it's based on a novel from the 80s, which is fascinating because this novel's been around this long. And it's an entirely fictional story about a young American woman who was an orphan as a child in the South, and in Kentucky, and that's the South.
I know. I'm just specifying.
I know.
The South is a big place.
I know. And grew up to become a world famous chess prodigy, and so it's a story about chess. And in fact, it's so well structured because when you stop to think about it, the structure of the story itself is like a chess match. The whole story.
Yeah.
If you pull back enough. In fact, each of the episodes is named after a part of a chess game. But it's also really a journey of this young woman. And I don't want to give too much away. In fact, there might be a little bit of spoilers. So, you might in a second want to skip ahead a couple minutes, but if you don't want to be spoiled and you haven't watched yet, we'll try to avoid too many spoilers. But it's this young woman's journey from humble beginnings. I mean, literally an orphan under terrible circumstances, who goes into this home The home is
the orphanage.
An orphanage for Christian girls. So it's a Christian orphanage, and it's the late 50s. So the story itself takes place mostly in the 60s, but it starts in the late 50s, and this was a time when they institutionally tranquilized all the children to keep them compliant. Not every place, everywhere, but in many places. And then during the story that says, they passed a law, we're not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah, it was not like a caricature of a terrible orphanage.
Right. It could have been a lot worse.
It could have been worse. And it was not, but it was an institution, and it was not like, it wasn't great either.
Yeah. One thing I want to say about the story as a whole is it focuses, like, the main character is in, I think, nearly every scene. This isn't a like story about chess in the midst of the geopolitical scene of the 60s or in the Cold War and all this. I mean, those things are sort of on the edges of it, especially as she competes internationally. But it's not about any of that, really.
It's really a story about...
It's her journey.
It's a coming of age story, really.
Yeah.
You could say. It's a story about growing up and coming of age and becoming an adult.
Right. And wrestling with demons, with the consequences of the things that happened to you as a child.
Yeah, but it was very character driven. I think all of the characters felt like real people. There was nobody
well-rounded.
There was nobody who felt like a caricature, who felt flat. Even some of the more minor characters.
Yep.
And
they weren't like super stereotypes.
Right.
Which is often the case when you have things set in the South, especially in the 50s and 60s.
And I really felt like the story surprised me at a lot of key points. I really didn't expect it to take some of the turns it did. And it was in a good way. Like, wow, I can't believe they did that. That worked so well. I did not see that coming. And right. I love it when I'm surprised, and a lot of like
happily surprised.
Right.
Yeah.
Like when something like late in the story calls back to something early in the story, and you see that thing that looked like a fairly insignificant detail suddenly takes on significance, and you see this beautiful arc that's been created that you didn't see coming. Like
that move of the pawn early in the game that in the end of the game suddenly has great significance.
Yeah, I mean, I love being surprised by stories. I mean, it hit a lot of the expected beats. Like the overall arc of the story. The overall arc
is not surprising.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that she's going to progress in chess, and she's going to get better, and she's going to beat people. Like that's the expected arc.
I think in the second episode I predicted how it would end.
Right. We knew pretty much early on how it would end, but we didn't know the character's journey, like what she was going to go through and who she was going to be by the time she got there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think was the most interesting part. And then who the people around her became too, because by the end of the story, a lot of the people who she knows aren't the same as they were at the beginning either.
Right.
And they went on some interesting journeys
of their own.
And
yet she's sort of a solitary figure.
Right.
She's very alone a lot of the time, even when she's with other people. And socially, she's not adept for a large part of the story. And
right.
Only later on does she even begin to start to become adept at the social aspects.
Which you would kind of expect from somebody who went through trauma as a child, somebody who'd grown up in an orphanage. I mean,
and then adopted into a dysfunctional family.
Right. And somebody who is drawn to chess, which tends to be a very cerebral and somewhat solitary sport.
Right.
It's not really a team sport.
No, except for the Soviets. That was part of the story. And the chess aspects of it were really well done because they weren't geeky, overwhelming, but they were important. And
it was really well. I felt like the word I wanted to use was choreographed. I felt like the chess was well choreographed.
It was just enough of it.
It felt like it really added to the tension, but you didn't have to know much about chess in order to understand what was going on. In every chess game where she's doing something technical, learning something technical about chess, there's also a human moment where she's on a part of her inward journey as well, her character journey. And so every game sort of advanced her character arc.
And her character arc.
Right. And I felt like the way that those interwove, her career and her character arc, was really well done. Like, it was very well written.
Right.
And the movie, I'm really curious to read the book at this point, because I feel like I want to see what the book was like, because the show did such a good job of telling a story and
Right.
taking you on a journey.
And all the people you meet along the way. She doesn't accomplish what she accomplishes on her own. People bring, all these people that she needs, that she relies on, that are part of her. And they seem to come and go, but they're all so very important.
Yeah, I really felt like it was very much a movie about, as solitary as she is, it's really a movie about relationships.
Yeah.
And the importance of family and friends and
Right.
connections.
It doesn't, I was afraid it would be very soap opera-ish, that sort of
Right.
thing.
Now, warning, this is definitely, there's a lot of mature content. This is not
For kids.
This is not for kids. And if you're super sensitive about,
Well, so there are times when there is extramarital activity, but none of it is salacious. There's no nudity.
right. But it's still,
But it's still there.
and it might be disturbing if you are disturbed by such things.
Right. Just to, clearly.
But it's not, it's not over the top, and there's always sort of a character moment that it's building on, and it's not.
And there's tranquilizer drug use, and
Other
at one
drug
point
use.
a
A lot of alcohol use.
lot of alcohol, and some there's a pot smoking scene, which is kind of funny, but
I mean, it's the 60s.
it's the 60s, so there's a lot of that around there, but it's also, and part of it is her struggle with these demons of drugs and alcohol and
right.
that sort of thing, and mental health issues, and and then there's that unexpected character who shows up at the end, who's so vital to everything.
Yeah. I don't want to talk too much about that, because I don't want to give anything away.
Right, because the surprise is part of what's so good about it. The actress was really great. She plays the main character from about 13 to what do we figure, like 20, 22,
23, maybe even
23. Yeah,
she's like in her early 20s by the end of the.
And it's the same actress, Anna Taylor-Joy, something like that.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Anya Joy Taylor.
I don't remember.
So I looked her up. She has a mixed ethnicity. I think her dad's from Africa. Her mom is Canadian. Actually, I think she's like Canadian or British or something like that. She has a very mixed. And so she has this, as you often see, an exotic look. The character's a redhead. I don't think the actress is actually naturally a redhead. But she has these big eyes, this pale skin, and her eyes are also kind of set far apart. So she has this waifish, innocent look to her.
Yeah, and I thought the costuming, I really liked the costuming. The clothes,
Especially later on,
really tell a lot of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that.
Yeah.
The fashion aspect of it. I mean, that was really fun.
Yeah, later on, especially she's moving in more fashionable circles and that sort of thing. Yeah. Just the set design was really great. Like the production design, not just set design, the production design. Was really great.
It was a beautiful series to watch. Like visually, just really, really nice.
There's a scene set in the orphanage, and I don't want to spoil it. I'm going to try to explain it without spoiling it, which is a key turning point for the character. And it's obviously an orphanage a Christian orphanage in the South. It is not a Catholic orphanage. But as they're in the orphanage, you hear the kids are in the chapel singing a Latin hymn, and you and I both turned to each other going, well, they screwed up here. There's no way they'd be singing a Latin, and it sounds like a Marian hymn.
I later identified it as, I'm pretty sure it's Ave Stella Maris, which is one of my favorite hymns. I love it. It's beautiful.
But yet it turns out, as we think about it, that's actually, the fact that it's a hymn to mother, and mother, her birth mother, her adoptive mother, are key aspects for her turning points in this film.
I thought the selection of the music was really inspired, and it was perfect.
In fact, the music throughout was awesome.
Yeah, it really was. I guess, yeah, music played a huge part in the feeling of the
setting the time frame, but also setting the mood of the scenes and the characters. Yeah, it was really good. Highly recommended. So that was was very good.
That's some of the best TV I've seen in a while.
Yeah. So let's finish up by talking a little bit about it's the first Sunday of Advent.
It is.
As we record this.
I was really both amused and annoyed.
Yes.
The visiting priest that we had said, "I bet you didn't think when you woke up this morning, it's the first Sunday of Advent." And I said, "Actually, yes, I did. That's the first thing I thought of when I woke up this morning. It's the first Sunday of Advent."
Bella turned to me and go, "I did."
Yeah. Don't undersell us, Father. A lot of us are quite well up on the church year, and sometimes we're playing, especially us moms who are like buying Advent candles and putting up our Advent wreaths and stuff. We're quite well aware of what time it is.
There's a tendency among some priests to lower the bar rather than raise the bar. I bet when you got up this morning, you thought, it's Advent. You know? Raise the bar, raise
he also sold the kids short, which they were all very annoyed about.
Right, that the only thing they care about is Santa.
The kids, of course, aren't going to care about all of these theological stuff. To them, Christmas means presents from Santa. And our kids were like, no, actually, we are quite interested in the idea about theological ideas of Advent as the coming of Christ into our lives. Thank you very much. We talk about that quite a bit. We've been talking about it for the past several weeks. In fact, as we've read the readings.
Especially in 2020. If you're going to have families at church, they're going to tend to be the ones who are taking these things seriously. Speaking of families at church, I don't want to overlook the fact that this was the first Sunday in 8 months that we were all able to go to Mass together.
So wonderful.
As we've mentioned before, and we don't want to say too much out of to respect privacy, but at times a couple, and then lately one of our kids was having anxiety issues related to going to Mass wearing a mask, and I know there are exceptions. If it's a medical issue, they don't have to wear a mask.
But with anxiety, that doesn't help
because
fix the problem.
Because you're still that makes you stand out even more so, and people looking at you.
Because it's social anxiety.
Yeah.
Really.
So, but finally, we've gotten to the point where, with help, that the anxieties are under control, and now we were able, for the first time, for the first week of Advent, able to go to Mass together. And this child was able to receive the Eucharist for the first time in 8 months, and they were very happy. You could tell.
I was crying.
Yes, I was getting misty myself thinking about it.
Which was really nice. I mean, the timing was not entirely accidental. I had kind of suggested that if you're going to take the plunge, this would be a good time to do it. Like we've been working very hard on talking about this.
And it wasn't just Mass.
For it.
It was other social events outside the home. We've been working up on all of that.
We've been very slowly working up on doing more and longer social interactions. And this was sort of the culmination, and it was really great. And the timing of it was awesome. And
in addition to like the children being, the child being able to go to Mass with you, because one of us had to stay home with this child every week. Right. We were swapping off for a long time. So the fact that we could both be at Mass together. This is the first time you and I have both been at Mass together since March. Yeah.
And also, I just want to say, I'm so very glad that in 2020, when this pandemic hit, that we have things like telemedicine, telehealth, being able to talk to mental health care professionals via video chat has been such an amazing blessing for our family. I know video telehealth does not work for everyone, and I'm sorry if it doesn't work for you, but for me, for our family, it has been it's
been a lifeline.
Yeah, because we could not have got through this pandemic without having access to mental health, and we would not have been able to do that if we had not had the ability to have
think about the
appointments.
The blessing of it occurring now in 2020 with the technology at the state it is in now.
Right, 10 years ago, we could not have done this.
Right, 10 years ago, you could technically do streaming video, but it was a lot harder. I know, because I was trying to do it for churches 10 years ago. Now it's, if you got a phone, I mean, it is, I mean, to do it right, it still takes a lot of work, but we would never have it as widespread as it is now, even 5 years ago.
Right.
We are at it. I mean, it's a blessing that it occurred now as opposed to then.
Right. And in previous eras, you might have been able to do a phone call with your doctor or your therapist, but the visuals of face-to-face, really, like the video chat, I mean,
it changes it.
It really does change the dynamic a lot.
Right.
Especially for kids, because they really kind of need that visual connection with the person they're talking to.
Right.
But also, can I just take a moment to say, we're living in science fiction. Like, this is science fiction land. This is like
video calls.
I cannot believe this is happening in my lifetime. This is so cool.
Now you sound like an old person like me.
I am so old.
Remember the Jetsons when they had video calls?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't believe that, like, this is my life.
Yeah. So, just a couple of things about Advent, the readings from this gospel. The gospel is Mark 13, 33 to 37, and Jesus is telling the disciples, be watchful, be alert. And it ends with him saying, may he not come suddenly and find you sleeping. What I say to you, I say to all, watch. And that's the end of the gospel. And it's very interesting, because I have two questions that come up. Like, what are we watching for? Like, literally. I mean, there's the metaphorical watching for the Lord of the house coming. The Lord is coming. But what does it mean
what does that mean for me
individually
personally
in 2020, preparing for Christmas through Advent? What am I watching for, and where am I looking? And we often refer to Mother Sophia, the Mount St. Mary's Abbey, because we're big fans, and she has an Advent reflection on this reading. And one of the things she says is, he wasn't telling us to look at the Christmas displays on people's houses, or look at the stores all lit up, or any of that sort of stuff. Which is, there's nothing wrong with that. She's not saying there's anything wrong with Christmas displays, but that's not what Jesus is telling us to watch for. What we're watching for is internal, inside. We're supposed to be, looking in. And one of the things she points out is at least in the Northern Hemisphere, this is a time of the darkness growing.
Right.
We're heading into darkness, heading like and I don't think it's a big coincidence that the shortest day of the year is right before Christmas.
Although, of course, for our friends in the southern hemisphere, your experience of these holidays is very different. Your metaphorical understandings, I'm sure, must be very
even
different.
Equatorial. Yeah. Going to the beach on Christmas, whole different experience of things. But for us, it's heading into darkness, and so you have to, when you're in the dark, you watch even more. You have to keep looking. And what are we looking for? We're looking for the light of Christ in our lives, inside us, not just like in the world around us, but really, especially in 2020. I think, I don't know, maybe not especially 2020, but I feel like it's, for me, especially in this year, trying to find where is the light of Christ found in my life, in my prayer, in my spirituality, in the way I act and think and behave and operate in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I need to be watching for. Watch for Christ in how I am in my relationships, how I am online, how I do my work when making podcasts. Do I find Christ in those things? And I have to continually remember that, to be looking for Christ in that, because even with the podcasts, honestly, it could just become me talking about TV shows and movies and cool mysteries and stuff. I have to remember that I'm looking for Christ in the panel, in my co-hosts, and in the topics that I'm talking about.
Right. The image that has stuck with me this week was, or in the last few weeks, really was brought home to me this week by a friend who shared. She likes to share music because she's a hymn writer, and she shared this beautiful spiritual. Keep your lamps burning. Actually, I think the lyric was "Keep your lamps trimmed and burning," and of course it's a callback to the recent gospel that we had of the wise and foolish virgins, and that's the image that I came to when I read this reading. The idea of be watchful, be alert, keep your lamp lit. Right. And so I was talking with the kids this week about like, how do we do that? How do we keep our lamps lit so that when the bridegroom comes, we're awake and not asleep? And so we talked about like, what are things that we can do to stay awake and watchful? And we talked about like, well, we can pray every day, spend time with God. We can read the Bible. We can go to mass. We can, make our lives fertile places. That's sort of the act of trimming and the wick and filling the lamp with oil to give it fuel and to keep it in good trim.
Yeah. Well, Advent's just beginning. Hopefully you have your Advent candles. We have ours.
We've had the same pillar candles for a few years now that my parents sent us.
Pillar candles are the best. Because the tapers burn too quickly. Pillar candles last forever, and so we should probably get a backup pair just in case, a backup set just in case for when these burn down enough that we need to replace them. But pillar candles, we light them at every night at dinner. They burn for half an hour or 20 minutes, and they last for a long time.
Yep, the kids really love Advent, and the lighting of the candles is really huge. It's really huge, and we've added. My mom always lit the Advent candles, but we usually said a prayer. But we've added singing "O Come, Emmanuel," which the kids love.
Yes,
it's really fun.
So I hope your Advent is started with a bang and a plus, and it's going well. And Happy New Year, Happy liturgical New Year.
Right.
Let's wrap things up. I do want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Raising the Bets, including Christopher H., Lynn L., Richard L., Kevin B., and Nathan V. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue Raising the Bets and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And I do want to recommend, by the way, if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure to go check out American Catholic History podcast on StarQuest. They are doing great work. I love their podcast. It's a lot of fun. It's not long. It's 15 minutes a week. And there's some great stories in there. And there's some great ones coming. So definitely check that out. That's at sqpn.com/history. So send us your feedback on our discussions today. Let us know what you have to say by commenting at sqpn.com/bets. That's BETTS. Or the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to bets@sqpn.com. You'll find relevant links for our discussion in our show notes on sqpn.com. And remember to like Raising the Bets on the StarQuest Facebook page, retweet us on Twitter, where we're at SQPN, and leave comments wherever you find us. Until next time, I'm Dom Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
Thank you for listening to Raising the Bets on StarQuest.